Okay, here we go. We're into May 17th here. Off to a good start. What's Ted putting up here? A new resource, similar sites. Cool, I'll have to take a look at that. I actually had another resource to share with you guys too, which is kind of a cool thing. Has to do with getting better click-throughs on your titles and your descriptions. And also for keyword research. What you will find is a lot of people are running keywords that are not coming up in the traditional keyword search now. And there's a tool out there. Let me see if I can remember the name of it. It's an interesting tool. It's called Answer the Public. So it's answerthepublic.com, and it comes up with a pretty cool little wheel of all these different questions that you could possibly ask about that particular thing. So in the search box, you can put in any generic search like get more traffic or lose weight or, get the 30-second abs or, whatever you're doing. You can just pop it in there and it will ask, it says ask the seeker. And then you enter your keyword, you hit get questions, and it'll come up with all the different variations of questions that people might ask about that. Like where to get it, how to get it, will I, certain things, can, which, who, when, basically all the question words, and it just wraps it around your main keyword. It goes and it finds all the different questions that that could be possibly related to that. So that's kind of a cool little resource I thought I would share with you guys. So anyway, hey, Mr. McLean has joined us. He's come back from the working world. So, welcome back there. I'm surprised we haven't got more people on here because we've got a bunch of new members now, and they don't seem to be hopping onto this this resource. So interesting. Another thing too I wanted to kind of let you guys know about is I've been working my way through Kartra, through all of the different Andy Jenkins refers to Kartra as kind of like a Chinese nesting doll. It's like you got all these different things, you start opening them up and there's opening and opening and opening. It's kind of like one of those surprise gifts where, the big box inside a little box inside a big box, and it just keeps on going. But really cool. I've figured out how to put coupons into it. I've been testing it. It is really awesome. I can see everything that's going on. I can see when people opt in. I can see exactly what actions they're taking after they're opting in. I can see if they're opening the follow-up emails. I mean, it's really cool. I've never had access to that kind of analytics behind the scenes, and I kind of like it. It's one of those things where you want it from day one, and it's kind of one of those things, do you ever get to it? And I know a lot of people that have bought Infusionsoft, that's the reason they bought it. They wanted access to all that data, and they wanted to be able to improve their marketing and all of that good stuff. So the problem with a lot of those software programs is they're not all inclusive. You've got to connect them to a bunch of other software programs, and by the end of it, you come up with this can of worms that you're constantly adjusting and maintaining to keep it all in sync and working together. So that's one of the things that I absolutely love about the Kartra program, is it's everything you need in one. The only thing so far, there's two things that I've added that are outside resources, and that is the Evergreen webinar system, which was a seamless integration. Basically, you just point to it and it connects everything you need. You don't need to know how to do any programming. You don't have to there's really nothing you need to know how to do other than connect it to your account. Just point it to it. And same thing with the SMS texting. It has the capability built right in, but Kartra doesn't have an auto dialer, so you've got to connect that. And I went ahead and connected mine. The name of it eludes me here. Let me get in here and take a look. I'll tell you what I use for that. Let's see here. Under my integrations, it's Twilio. So Twilio is the program that you can connect, and Twilio, they don't charge you anything for the service. Basically, you put a certain amount of money in, and it's like in a holding account, and then they charge you like a fraction of a cent per SMS text that they send out on your behalf. So it's like you put into your bank account in there in Twilio, and then it keeps using it up till it gets down, and then it'll automatically reorder. So you can put your credit card or your PayPal account, and that's a really cool thing now. And I can see, now that I can see my open rates, I can see people that are not getting emails for one reason or another. Sometimes they'll bounce and then they get blocked. If you're running a serious online business, communication is going to be your key to success. So making sure that you can communicate, like when you guys get these emails for this call, now running these through Kartra, I can actually see who's opening the email, who's clicking the links, and who's showing up. I knew who was showing up, obviously, because you guys show up here on the call. But now I can see who's actually opening the emails and who's ignoring the emails. So the idea of being able to go around email and get a text through to get your message to them is really, really a cool deal. So anyway, I will let you guys come through and let me know what's on your mind. All you have to do is just unmute, or if you just type in the chat box there, I'll address your questions. And the other thing I wanted to make a quick announcement on is we have another call that's coming to an end with our Apprentice Program. Our Apprentice Program basically has run out its full year, so that call that we normally do is coming to a close. And I deliberately didn't resell that program because I wanted to run its course and then open it up to the next group. So any of you that were on that one's basically just going to be merging with this one. So anybody that's in there in the ACT program, we're basically just doing everything in one call here. Another thing I'm going to do for anybody that does order Kartra, I'm going to set up an additional call that just specifically addresses Kartra and helping people through that system. I'm not sure how many calls we'll do. We might do quite a few in the beginning and record those and keep those archived. But then I may do them every 2 weeks, or maybe once a month. We'll see how many people show up, how many people need assistance with that, because it's really cool. And there's a lot of training inside of Kartra, so you probably don't really need a lot of my assistance because there's videos in there on just about every step of the process, which is awesome. They've done a really phenomenal job of putting that program together. But there's a lot of people that they're tech scared. I'm not going to say they're tech challenged, because there's no tech inside Kartra that any of you guys can't do. But you might be hesitant. You might not know what certain things mean, or what to click and what to connect and all that. So I want to help whoever is in there get that thing up and running. Because seriously, if you're going through the ACT program and you've got a marketing campaign, the The two big things that it's going to take for you to have any kind of online success is basically a marketing campaign, which we've addressed that completely in ACT. You know, the ACT program should enable everyone to create a successful marketing campaign. Whether you're doing it in real life, face-to-face, or you're doing it online in a marketing funnel, really doesn't matter. The process is all the same. A marketing funnel is just a sales process. It doesn't necessarily mean it's a, you know, an electronic online system. It just means it's whatever your sales process is, that's what ACT will help you create. It will help you create that sales process. Now, how you deliver it, that's up to you. Whether you want to automate it into electronic format, or you literally want to go door to door and do presentations, it really doesn't matter. Some people like to do that. Some people like to do meetup groups. Some people like to send out hard mailers and do appointments. It doesn't matter. A lot of people in LinkedIn do that. They use LinkedIn as an appointment generator, and then they have appointments set, and they do physical one-on-one presentations. Some of them do it across video conferencing like this. Some do it in person. But behind it, what you deliver, that's your ad campaign, no matter how you slice it. It's everything from how you attract the customers, to begin with, to your marketing materials, your education process, your appointment setting, your offer, everything from point of contact to point of sale and even beyond to your point of delivery. Because remember, it's not, it doesn't stop when you finish the sale. When you close the deal, that's really the beginning of the work. Now you have to deliver. And some of you have automated delivery systems. You're doing electronic products and it's an easy delivery, but there might be some customer support. You might have to take some calls. You might have to answer some questions. Nothing is going to be 100% autopilot. That's one thing I've learned about business. It's always going to take some sort of a touch, whether you're doing it or one of your employees is doing it. But anyway, that's a funnel. It's that process from A to Z, from point of contact to sale, delivery, and beyond. So that's what ACT really addresses. Now, if you want to do online marketing, you're going to have one more thing besides that basic funnel built out. You're going to have a delivery mechanism that automates the process of delivery. And that's what we're talking about with Kartra. We were using ClickFunnels before, but ClickFunnels was the best thing for the price at the time, but it had a lot of things that weren't quite right with it. And it was kind of difficult to set up because you had to integrate a bunch of different stuff with it. And if you use their mailing system and all that, then you were at $300 a month. So it was kind of expensive, kind of pricey, kind of hard to set up. Not near as easy as Kartra. So with these two together, with Kartra and ACT combined, you guys really have the tool that you need, all the tools and all the resources to create a successful marketing campaign. And I was encouraging some people last week on the call to actually just pick something. Because I know from my experience with everyone that's going through the program, I think a lot of people are stuck. And the place that you're stuck is either in analysis, you're getting caught there, or you have not picked, and this comes back to analysis too, you just haven't picked a direction to go. Some of you are stuck on the segment. What segment are you going to go after? Some of you are stuck on the big idea. What's the big idea behind it? And I got to tell you, if you don't figure those two things out, if you don't know who you're addressing, it's going to be really, really difficult to create any kind of a marketing campaign around that. So that's going to be the thing. You're going to need to get those two things in place. You need to figure out who you're addressing, who you're talking to, and then the next thing is what is you know, and we talked about this last week, the big idea. What's the big idea behind it? That's really going to form and mold your whole campaign moving forward. So those two things, if you're stuck, it's probably because of one of those two big things. That's been the stone walls that I've seen people hit. And my advice last week is the same as it is this week. You gotta just pick one. You know, as far as a segment, you've got to just pick one. I tell everybody I always shoot, if I've got a choice, I always shoot for the most profitable. So if you're looking at two, look at it through that filter of which one of these is going to be more profitable for me. You know, there's some other variations like, you know, is it easy and, you know, all that kind of stuff, and is it the right people that you really want to deal with? But you've got to make sure it's profitable to make sure that it works out for you. So anyway, and then beyond that, back to the whole big idea, this is the thing that's going to make you different in the marketplace. And if you don't get this right, you're just going to become noise. You're going to be basically marketing to over competition, you know, an overbearing competition. That's what you're going to be up against. So hold on just a sec, guys. I'll be back in just a second. Okay, sorry about that. Sorry about the interruption there. We got some construction going on here at the house, so I had to let the guys in. Anyway, so the big idea, it's the thing that's going to make you different. Like if everyone in your marketplace is saying the same thing, your message is going to get ignored. You're not going to be seen. You know, if everybody's saying the same thing, it's like the whole diet pill thing. I use this as an example. You've got to have something different, and you've got to have an attention grabber. When you're running your ads, you're out there on Facebook, or you're in, you know, in pay-per-click or in YouTube, you're trying to draw attention. So if you don't have something that is going to do that, you're going to be unsuccessful. You're going to spend a lot of money, and you're probably not going to get a lot of people to click through. You know, and if they do click through and you're saying the same thing, your odds of conversion are very, very minimal. So you've got to do that. You've got to have that thing that separates you. You know, and the big idea, you've got to combine into a very short thing. You know, some people call this the elevator speech. If you don't have an elevator speech that you can deliver in seconds that grabs someone's attention and gets them to want to know more, then you're not going to be effective there either. You know, and if you haven't figured out what's that big idea, how can you say the same thing differently that in a way they've never heard, that grabs their attention and evokes their curiosity to ask the question, you know, of how does that work, or tell me more about that. I'm interested. That's what I want. So in the pieces of the big idea, you have to make sure that you're addressing what they actually want. You know, you've got to put that in there. You've got to have that as part of your front end campaign. You know, you've got to address what they want. You've got to address it in a way they've never heard it before. And sometimes, you know, if you haven't watched this yet, I really encourage you to go back into the ACT system and watch the video on the big idea. It will show you a bunch of different examples. The one I use a lot is Tim Ferriss. His big idea was the 4-hour work week. You know, it was in relationship to an outsourcing guide. He wrote a book on outsourcing, how to outsource your life. Nobody wanted that. It was the same thing. There's 100 other books on the market about outsourcing. Everyone's talking about it. It's just noise. So when he came out, he posted his book out there, and it didn't sell. It was just noise. A couple of things that is really bad that happens when you get in that noise is, for one, nobody hears you, and for two, if they do hear you and they're interested, the first thing they do is they price shop. And if you're not the lowest price, you're not going to win. So you might have been the one. You might have paid the money for the advertising to grab their attention with something that was just noise, and now you've got them on a price shop and they're going to go buy someone else's product. So you basically just paid advertising to generate a sale for your competitor. So that's a very bad place to be, and you want to make sure that you've got a big idea so that doesn't happen. The other thing about the big idea is it makes it unique, to you. And that should be the second part of your ad campaign, is making sure that you're set. Now that you've grabbed their attention, you want to set the buying criteria and truly make it unique so they can't price shop it. You know, there's a lot of marketers out there that they call that another Google slap. You know, that's a Google slap that will slap you. If you say, you know, if you call your product by something generic that is, there's 50 other ones in the market, and they go to Google and they type in that same thing and they search, and now here's all your competitors, you're going to get slapped. You know, Google has just slapped you because they took your prospect and your traffic and they funneled it somewhere else. That's a bad thing. So you want to make sure, you know, when you come up with your product names and all that stuff, and I didn't really do a great job of that myself with ACT, because when you search ACT, there's a bunch of different things called ACT, and the ACT acronym has been used pretty widely. And that's why I've shifted gears now when I'm doing my newest ad campaign, and I'm basically referring to the unique mechanism as the Elvis shift. So I'm not selling, I'm not coming across promoting it as ACT. What I'm doing is I'm promoting the Elvis shift, which the Elvis shift, there's no other Elvis shift that's unique to me. So if they go try and search that, where else can I get the Elvis shift? They're not going to find anything. So that's what you want to do. You want to make sure you build in uniqueness to that. So like when Tim Ferriss changed that from the outsourcing guide to the 4-hour work week, guess what? People started searching, how do I do the 4-hour work week? And it was unique to him. So there was no Google slap. He wasn't, you know, bleeding off his prospects over to competitors. He created a unique thing. That's what you've got to do. That's the big idea. Tying in what they really want into something unique that is yours. And you know, if you do that, then your marketing starts to come into play. It starts to become easy. You know, writing your headlines now is easy. Writing your landing page now is easy. Creating products or taking existing products and repackaging them becomes easy. So that's really the big key and the big trick to that is you know, the big idea, and based around a profitable segment of the market. So like I said, the two biggest places where I see people stuck is right there. They either haven't picked a segment, or they haven't taken the time to create the big idea based around that segment, what they want, how to package it differently. And if you don't have those two, you really will remain stuck. Either you'll remain stuck or you'll waste your time moving forward. Because, you know, like I've said since day one, if you get into creation before you've got your analysis set, you're really spinning your wheels. You've got things ass backwards. You're out of order. You're out of sync. So the sequence really is there for a reason. You know, everything about the ACT program it's based around the ad agency model. You know, this model, this protocol has been working for over 100 years in the ad agency world. It's not going to stop tomorrow. It's going to work for a very, very long time. So if you want any level of success, whether it be online or offline in business, you need to wrap your head around it. You need to start focusing on that particular sequence, and that will change everything for you. So anyway, again, guys, come out, ask your questions. Russ wants to know if Kartra works with Shopify. Let me take a look here in the integrations. I do not see a Shopify integration for it yet. They have a Kajabi integration, but I don't see one for Shopify. And I don't know that they'll actually make one for Shopify specifically, because Shopify is its own shopping cart, mainly for for commerce, selling commerce. And I think they've got, or they want to have a lot of the same stuff built in there. So it's more of a a commerce site, website. Kartra isn't necessarily geared toward that. They're not geared toward like creating a bunch of categories and products like a store. They're not geared toward that as much as Shopify is. But what you could do, you could have Shopify sitting there as your store and have that operating as your store, and you could run Kartra on the front end to generate your sales. It could do your marketing on the front end, because that's really what it is. It's a marketing program. Yeah, it does have shopping cart capability. You can sell products in it, no problem. In fact, you can create membership sites. I've actually recreated the entire ACT membership site in it, and it's awesome. It's mobile friendly. I'm really seriously considering rebuilding my entire Internet Dominator site using Kartra, because it's so easy to use, and it's mobile friendly, and it tracks everything. It's phenomenal in its tracking. So videos, it does video hosting. You can host your videos in there. I've canceled off my Wistia account. I've canceled a bunch of stuff because I don't need it anymore with Kartra. It's really cool. The only two things outside of Kartra that I continue to pay for is Zoom here for my video conferencing. It doesn't do that. I pay Twilio basically for the SMS texting, which it integrates with that. And I pay for the Evergreen webinar software, because it also integrates. It's built by the same people, so the integration on that one's a no-brainer. So anyway, that's the way I might attack that, is using Kartra on the front end to do the marketing and funnel people in. You can send them. You don't have to use the Kartra shopping cart. You don't have to use theirs. You can send it right to landing pages within your site, but you could use Kartra on the front end, to monitor who's watching your videos, who's consuming your marketing materials and all that. So that's really important stuff.
The reason I was asking about Shopify is because I want to, like, say you get a customer and you want to be able to tag the customer with specific products that they purchase, and then do follow-up marketing with Kartra. The issue would be how to import your sales information into Kartra and then do follow-up funnel type marketing.
The way I would do that is I would generate a Kartra tag for a product. Like, let's say you're going to sell a particular product. I would generate a Kartra tag for that product, and then put it on the success page for the order processing for that product. Does that make sense?
How would you do that? I'm not following it.
Oh, you can create a tag inside Kartra, and then you can get the code for the tag that will trigger that tag to be applied. So if, let's say, they land on a particular page, that tag is applied. So
they land on a page in Shopify?
Yeah, so if you put that on your order checkout page for a particular product or category or whatever, any product inside a category, stuff like that, then it would apply that tag that somebody purchased that, and now they're a customer. And then if that tag applies and they are now a customer, it can go ahead and it can do automation by removing them out of the marketing sequence because it knows they're a customer.
Yeah, but you would have to get them in the Kartra first before they made the sale.
Correct. Well,
So,
actually, no. That's how would you do that? Yeah, you probably would have to have them in. Now, here's another thing. You can actually import your list. If you've got a list inside your Shopify, you can export that list. Like if you can segment your list, like say everybody that bought ABC product, and you separate that list out and you export it, you can import that list into Kartra and tag them all at one shot.
does Kartra have integrations with MailChimp?
Kartra doesn't really need MailChimp. It's got its own mailer, but let me see.
So you don't have to use a mailing service. Kartra has it built in.
Yep, it's all built in.
Because MailChimp has an integration with Shopify, so you can take that Shopify data into MailChimp.
Okay.
If you would take that additional step, take it from MailChimp and put it into Kartra. Because Kartra's also can be used as a CRM, correct? You can do like history of who purchased what.
Yeah, exactly. So there's, let's see, I'm just looking through here. I don't see a MailChimp integration in there. There's SendGrid.
I think SendGrid might be the parent company of MailChimp.
Okay, so that might be the one right there.
Hmm.
There's, let's see, there's Postmark. There's Mailgun. And there's its own, which is called Kartra Mail.
Okay.
Those are the ones for email. So Postmark, SendGrid, and Kartra, and Mailgun.
Okay, so can I go back to your topic? You were just talking about your big idea.
Sure.
I used your content writing company to create an article that we talked about in one of your past calls, and that would be in reference to beach umbrellas protecting you against skin cancer. And the big idea that I have is, all umbrellas are not created equal, and there's a lot of articles out there that talk about beach umbrellas do not protect you from skin cancer. Well, it's kind of true, but it's not true when it comes to our umbrella.
Okay.
And for me to combat that big misnomer that people think that all beach umbrellas are just, I don't know, they just give you shade.
Mm-hmm.
How do I get that idea and it be like an attention-grabbing, title that would, all beach umbrellas not created equal type of thing?
Well, see, that doesn't really say anything. That doesn't really state your point. Your point is this is the only cancer-fighting beach umbrella. And then if you create content around that and no one else has that content, when they go search, cancer-fighting beach umbrella, you become the only one there. So that's what you want to try and do, is figure out what they're not saying.
Right.
You don't want to focus on what they are saying. You want to focus on what they're not saying.
Okay.
And it doesn't have to mean that they're not doing it or whatever. It just means they're not saying it.
Okay.
It's like the tobacco companies back in the 50s, one of the ad campaigns, they were all sitting around a table, and one of the ad campaign guys comes up with the idea of, well, our tobacco is toasted. And the guy looks around and he says, they're all toasted. What are you talking about? He says, yeah, well, no one's ever said that. So just by saying that now, they became different. They rose above the noise by saying something different. And, you know, that's really what Big Idea is all about. It's saying the same thing in a different way that makes you unique. And if you can put in, or at least imply, that this is going to be the delivery thing that delivers their desired outcome. You know, like in your case, the desired outcome is they want to be outside, but they want to be safe. So it's got to come across. That should be integrated into that Big Idea.
Right.
You know, like the idea of, hey, you don't have to worry anymore. You can go out and stay all day at the beach as long as you're underneath the cancer killing umbrella, you know, or, you know, whatever you want to call it. That's kind of how you would wrap a Big Idea, because somebody would hear that and they say, wow, I've never, you know, what's that? You know, what's a cancer shield umbrella, or, you know, whatever, however you want to come up with it.
Yeah.
But you say it in a different way, you attach it to their desired outcome, and it becomes your delivery mechanism of how you deliver that desired outcome. Does that make sense?
Yep.
And then in that way, when they hear it, all of a sudden it grabs their attention, and it doesn't allow them to go shop it around and find a cheaper one. Because a cheaper one doesn't exist.
Right.
Because there is no other one.
Got it.
So if you can get all that into your Big Idea, then you've got a real winner. And then when you do, and you've got that solidified, it will become very easy to write your headlines, because that really is your headline. It'll become very easy to take that and create an image around it for an image ad, because you're portraying something now. You've got something solid that you're working with. And then you start writing your ad copy, and that becomes the focus of your ad copy. You know, that becomes the focus of you educating them now how this thing works, why it's different, why they need it. Gives you the opportunity to create demand and desire with your marketing. And once that's done, once you've created that demand and desire, you basically do that just by, you know, seducing their heart. Remember I said you have to seduce the heart and then convince the head? The heart is the thing that wants things. So if you seduce the heart with the promises of what it wants, like it wants to be outside, you know, they want to be out in the sun, but they don't want to get cancer. They're scared. You know, so that's what prevents them. You've already identified the hurdle. That's what prevents them from getting what they really want, is experiencing the outdoors, you know, the fresh air, the, you know, all the good-looking bodies running around the beaches, you know, all that stuff. Figure out exactly what it is that they really want, why they want it. You know, maybe,
hey, John.
Maybe it's the freedom, you know. Yeah,
Hey,
go
John.
ahead. Go ahead, Chris.
Hello, everyone. Hey, this is I hear what you're saying, and the thought that comes to my mind is, and I believe this is from the ACT program, is when you're finding a niche. And one source, first of all, when you said, you know, the only umbrella, the first thing that came to mind is the only cancer-preventing umbrella you'll ever need. I always found those attractive because that's got the word need in it, and I didn't know I needed it. But the second thing, but more specific, one market might be for parents of newborns. You know, parents of newborns, number one, they tend to buy every book they can to get every piece of information. And if you got a lifestyle where they might be outside all the time, but they're worried about baby. And so anyway, so an ad line like, you know, the UV protection for UV protection for your baby. And because people are concerned about that, when you talk about, you know, tie it into the heart, they want to take care of the baby, but yet active parents still want to be outside. Hey, we can have both with this umbrella. Anyway, so that's a niche market, you know, and to parents that want to be outside with their kids.
Yeah, so that's how you do it. You seduce the heart with the promises of what they want, and then you've got to convince the head, because all the wants and the desires, they all rest in the heart. The heart wants everything. The heart wants what it wants, and it's like a little kid. It doesn't understand waiting. It wants it now. And the head is what gets in the way. The head steps in, and the head is like the conscious mind. And the job of the head is to protect the heart. You know, the heart just wants, but the heart gets broken. So the head is what protects the heart. You know, and this is human nature. This goes back, you know, a million years. You know, the heart sees food running out there, and the head says, no, don't run after it because you might get eaten. You know, it literally goes back to the beginning of time. The head is there to protect the heart. You know, but the heart is where the wants develop. That's where they live. And then you've got to convince the head, and the head loves proof. You know, when you can convince the head, then the head will allow the heart to have what it wants. Now you've got a sale. Because the head is basically operating on beliefs. And there's a lot of ways that those beliefs have been built. And the beliefs become the objections. So what I was just getting into saying when we started was, you know, the only thing, once you've created demand and desire, and you've seduced the heart, and the heart wants it, the only thing at that point that's going to stand in the way of a sale is an objection. And those objections are all based on their beliefs. So if they believe that no umbrella is going to prevent the harmful rays of the sun that creates cancer, then you need to create a new belief that dispels that belief that they have and install that new belief. So now they believe that yours actually does this. And that's, you know, that's where I came up with the Franklin Belief Builder. And that's the whole thing. You've seen that in the training. That's the claim proof benefit. That's how Benjamin Franklin, that was his formula 276 years ago of how he sold his wood burning stove, which admittedly his stove was the worst one on the market, but he outsold the competition because he understood this. He understood the way to install new beliefs and make them believe that his was the best. Even though it wasn't. It was his marketing that made it happen. And it was that, it's absolutely brilliant. It's claim proof benefit is the formula. And you make the claim of, you know, this umbrella will stop cancer. You know, that might be your claim. And a claim is just that. It's just hearsay. It's you saying it, and it's gonna go off their back like water off a duck. But when you back it up with proof, and you show proof from the market or proof from some studies or something like that, generally I like to put 2 proof points to it. Now all of a sudden it goes from hearsay to fact. You have just cemented that claim in as a fact now. So it no longer has to rest on just the weight of what you say. It doesn't matter what you say. This is real, and facts are indisputable. Remember, we got to convince the head. Facts convince the head like nobody's business. So once that has now become a fact, and the head is no longer negotiating of, you know, do I believe this or not? It believes facts. Now you take it, you tie that to the benefit. And now you've taken the head, and you're convincing the head that the heart is going to get what it wants, and it's not going to be let down, and it's not going to be broken. And the best way to do that is to turn your benefit into a 3-dimensionalized benefit, where they can hear it, see it, and feel it. And you know, I'm not saying anything new. This is all in the training. If you guys have been through the videos, to hear it, see it, feel it. You basically break it into 3 stages, and you're going to verbally or in writing walk them through this process of, and the first part is hear it, and that's just simply stating it. You're just going to state, you know, whatever the benefit is. You can be in the sun all day long and not have to worry about cancer. That's the hear it. That's the first part. Now you want them to see what that looks like. So you might pull up something where they remember it from the past. Like, remember back when you were a kid, you didn't have to worry about that. You know, you know, whatever it may be, you pull back that thing that they've already seen. Like I use the example in the weight loss a lot of times of, remember when you looked in the mirror, remember what you looked like 20 pounds ago. They see it automatically. They'll pull that image into their head. And then the next thing is to actually feel it. So you hear it, see it, and the feel it. And the feel it part is the thing that really locks it down. This is the part that transports them to the desired outcome. And usually you can evoke that by using the word imagine. So you say, imagine how cool it's going to be when you're no longer worried about cancer and you can spend all day out in the sun because you're protected by the, the Cancer Shield umbrella or whatever you want to call it. So it's pretty cool.
Hi, John.
Yeah, go ahead, Lewis.
I'd like to ask you a question related with SEO and the ACT program.
Okay, sure.
So today a client of mine, a potential client of mine called me after a few emails. And the website is in WordPress, is a business in the headhunter, and they're specialized in healthcare, in looking for executives. And he told me, well, we have been doing our research and we have been trying to rank for headhunter and any variation of headhunter, but the problem is that the traffic we get is from potential people that are looking for the job, not for executives or CEOs who are looking for another executives.
Okay.
And on top of that, they say, well, your suggestions about optimizing for mobile is not that accurate for us because our profile comes from desktop. So I refused to work with them because I thought that first they think they know more than they really know. Secondly, I felt that was going to be a pain in the ass as a client.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you deal with or spot clients or people who are not going to be good clients?
Well, that's a great point that you brought up, and you're very smart to have passed on them. And when I look at the clients that I take in, I pass probably 90%. I pass 90% of the job opportunities that I get for taking on clients because I know they're not a good fit for me. And like you said, if they're going to be a pain in the ass, my ass does not like pain. So I screen them right up front. But in your case, like in there, like if the words are bringing them the wrong traffic, that might just be a case of SEO might not be right for them, or they haven't figured out how it is going to be right for them. The right keywords will bring the right traffic. But if the people that are their ideal clients are not searching, then SEO really doesn't work for them. And you bringing them the wrong traffic doesn't work for them. So if that's the case, you did a really good thing by passing on that, because there's no way you'd ever make them happy, and they would be a pain in your ass. So,
and also, I share with you the website. It's like a website with the design of the 90s, you know? Yeah. Because they say, well, we have 25 years in the business. We are recognized in the business and that kind of stuff. So yeah. I say, well, but if you are even considering SEO, it's because the world is changing and you need a new source of clients.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. I mean, it's like they say me what to do, and I just say no, thank you.
Yeah, no, you're doing the right thing with that. When they come to you, you have to have a certain amount of certainty to what you do to be able to lead them. And if they're coming to you with a higher level of that certainty, then they're going to discard you for what your value is. And that's really not a good relationship to have. If they're coming to you for the expert to help them, you need to fit in and remain in that spot. You need to hold that ground. And when they're doing that kind of stuff, I would just basically refer them to, hey, you obviously know more about this than I do, so why don't you run down that path, and then you can get back to me and tell me how that worked out for you. And that can come across sometimes like a smart ass, and that's okay. I've got some of my best clients when I turn them away because of that. I let them go and I let them make all the mistakes, and then when they came back, guess what happened to the price? Their price when they came back was substantially higher than the first time I quoted them. And a lot of times they'll pay the price because they've actually suffered the pain. You can't really sell somebody if they're not really in need. And if they already know it all and they think they know more than you and they're going to take that attitude, one of two things is either they really truly believe that, or they're trying to beat you up to get you to drop your price. And neither one of those is really any good for you.
Yes, at the end of the conversation, that's exactly what happened. Well, if you consider reducing the price of the proposal, we might work with you.
Yeah.
And I say, okay, thank you very much for your time, but I'm the one that I'm not going to work with you. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Yeah. Now you're on solid ground with that decision. That's because those kind of people, they don't change. And if you drop your price once, they're going to continue to expect that. And they're not going to have any any respect for you, and they will just be a pain in your ass. It's you're definitely smart to say goodbye to those before you even start. I took on a good number of those in the very beginning, and they cost me so much in the time that they spent that I could have been productive. When I look back on it, it just makes my skin crawl, the amount of time that I wasted on clients like that, just because I didn't know any better. I was in the beginning, a lot of times you'll just take on anybody just for the sake of taking them on. And I didn't need to. I had great clients. I didn't need to take any of those on. I would have been better off just to have that spare time and just, go out and have fun with it. And, but it's easy to look back now and say that, but when you're in it, it's kind of hard to do that. So it's great that you threw that question out, because, if nothing else, you've got the backing to know that you made the right decision there. So anyway, okay, we got a question here from Nikia about making claims that relate to medical. And that is an issue. That's a very sticky subject. You can make all the claims you want, but you can't. There's certain claims that are revolving around finance and medical that have regulation to them. So you got to be careful with that. Now, we've got one of our people, she's not on here today, Mary Sue, she deals in supplements, and a lot of them in a category where she really can't make the claim of what it does, and she makes the claim of the benefit, the ultimate benefit of it. And the benefit for her really is to make them feel better, because it's thyroid issues. It's people that deal with glandular issues and they're not producing enough of these particular things. So her product solves that. She made the product based on her own problem, and she went to doctor after doctor after doctor, and they would give her all the stuff that is medically known, and it doesn't work. They don't really have a cure for it. So she created a natural product, a supplement, but she has that same thing. She can't come out and say that this will cure your problem. because they'll, the FTC will come and, lock her up and shut her down and all that. She doesn't want that. So you can't make any diagnosis. You can't really do any of that stuff in your claims, but you can make the claims of how they're going to feel. You can say, if you're suffering from this, and this, and you're down and you're depressed, you can say 9 out of 10 people that have done this particular thing, when they get to the end of it, they just have this overwhelming feeling of well-being. That kind of stuff. You can make those kind of claims, and then you back those up with proof. Proof can be testimonials. Proof could be, and you have to be careful when you're dealing with testimonials for the medical and the financial. They have to be specific to the outcome, but not specific to any diagnosis or medical treatment. They have to say, I took such and such for so long, and the end result was now I can, I have the energy to take my kids to school, or whatever it is. You got to figure out who your target market is, and what's the problem being caused by the symptoms of whatever the thing is. And then you skip right past that, you go to the desired outcome of what they really want. And in her case, people felt really good before this happened to them. So she's tying the point in time of when they felt good to where they want to be again. And that's how we're formulating the claims and stuff for that. So, and the thing, and then she says, the thing about the umbrella shielding against cancer, isn't that a medical claim? No, because we're preventing cancer. We're not diagnosing cancer, and we're not curing cancer. We're preventing an outcome that no one wants. So very, very different there. We're not making any medical claim. We're making a preventative claim, and those are a lot easier to get around, get away with. And it's easy actually to back that up with proof too, because if you're looking at sun cancer, the obvious cure for sun cancer to prevent it, the cure for prevention or whatever, is just not go in the sun. So if you have an umbrella that shields the rays of the sun that are causing the cancer, and you can prove that, then you've got the proof that you actually have a cancer prevention umbrella. So, and again, it's not making a claim of a diagnosis or a medical treatment or anything like that. But yeah, you can't really do that. They're very sticky about anything at all that has to do with diagnosis or treatment. So gotta really watch out for that. So with yours specifically, let's see, it says you can claim to prevent cancer but not treat or diagnosis. Yeah, basically. in that case, yes. Now with yours specifically in PTSD, in trauma, that's the same thing like what Mary Sue has. They have a point in time where they didn't have that, and they remember that, and they probably want to get back to that. So you can make those kind of claims. You can say, a lot of the people that went through the program that were suffering this before, they were just like you, and now they feel like they did before the trauma. So I think that kind of stuff, I think you can formulate your claims based on that. And also take a look when you do competitive research. We've got a whole module around competitive research to actually look at what are the claims that are being made into the marketplace. Who else is offering something similar to what you're doing, and what kind of claims are they making? And that'll kind of give you a little bit of a guideline. It doesn't say that they're always right necessarily, but it'll give you an idea of what the market's hearing. If there's other stuff going on, generally, whatever the problem, there's a lot of people that are saying the same thing. Like, for instance, I use the example of chiropractors a lot, because a chiropractor, what they're doing is they are either preventing back pain, which a lot of people don't look at back pain prevention. They look at, once they have back pain, how do they get rid of it? They're looking for relief of back pain. So in the chiropractic world, they don't want to just look at the competitors that are selling chiropractic. They want to look at the competitors that are selling back pain relief, because that's what their prospects are seeing. They're seeing all the bombardment of the messages about back pain relief, and it's not just chiropractors. So it's important to look and see what the market is saying. You know, what are all the competitors that are providing relief for this symptom? What are they saying? Like for chiropractors, you know, for back pain specifically, chiropractor is just one pain relief solution. There's pills, there's massage, there's acupuncture, there's inversion tables, there's, you know, it goes on and on and on. There's certain beds that are sold for that, and they're all selling the desired outcome of back pain relief. But when you look at their messages, you'll learn a lot from the messages of what is it that the prospects are actually hearing. What are they being drawn in by? And that's how you know what you have to say is different. If you don't know what they're hearing to begin with, you don't know how to make it different. And the last thing that you want to do is come out with the same, because then you just become part of the noise in the marketplace. And like I said earlier on the call, when you become the noise, the first thing they do when they hear it, you've now activated them. You paid the money to advertise, to activate their thought process. And the first thing they're going to do is they're going to go Google it. And they're going to see if there's how many different providers of this are there. And what you did is you just advertised to send a paying customer to your competitor, because what they're going to do, they're going to go to the lowest price one and they're just going to buy it. And if you're not the lowest price one, you just gave that sale away. So that's the danger of saying the same thing in your advertising. You've got to be different. You've got to send them, you got to set the buying criteria, and you've got to have all roads lead back to you. So that's the whole thing of the big idea. You know, the whole kind of the focus of this call from the beginning was make sure you've got your most profitable segment of the market right, and make sure the big idea is in tune with that segment. And that really is the foundation for, you know, for that, the whole success of that marketing campaign. So, all right, anything else here before we wrap up? Another thing too, guys, I want you all to be aware of the thing that's going on with the EU right now. There's a big regulation coming down, and I believe it is set to go into play the 25th of this month. It's the GDPR, and that stands for General Data Protection Regulation. And that thing is, it's a very nasty situation. It's kind of like in the US, it's equivalent to our FTC compliancy. But this is, it's really a nasty one. And what's gone on is in the EU, in the European nation, privacy is looked at very differently than it is in the US. In the US, privacy, you know, it's a concept, but it's really become a commodity. Data here has become a commodity. And we have lost a lot of rights to that privacy based on some deals that our government has made with big vendors like Google and Amazon and eBay, and they're allowed to do things, you know, related to our privacy that they would never get away with. But they're allowed to do it because they share that information with the government, our government, the US government, for national security purposes, reasons, you know, whatever. So they've got a get out of jail free card. And what's happening is the European nations are realizing that, and they look at privacy very differently. They look at privacy as a human right. and not a commodity. And they're very much up in arms about, our privacy rules and regulations here in the States. So what they're doing is they're putting in these regulations, kind of like the FTC has done here, to protect the consumers against fraud. The FTC in the US, really that's their whole thing, is they want to protect against false claims and fraudulent behaviors towards consumers. That's kind of their main thing. And they're very nasty about it. It's like it's the closest thing to a kangaroo court you're ever going to see. If they target you and they decide that you're under suspicion, you're guilty. In their eyes, you're guilty right from the get-go. It's not like what we think is our right is to be innocent until proven guilty. In this case, with the FTC, you're guilty until you prove yourself innocent. And that never really happens. And what they do, they will literally seize all your assets. And you don't have access to anything. Your credit cards, your bank accounts, everything is frozen. And they basically decide how much it's going to cost you in a fine to alleviate this. And in a lot of cases, it's going to be more than you've got in your bank accounts. So then they're going to go after your assets. And like I said, it's nasty, and there's no appeal. You have no rights, basically, if they decide you're in their crosshairs. And the best way for you to stay out of their crosshairs is obviously not do anything fraudulent, but protect yourself by having the right policies in place. This is a huge thing. Most of the sites I review do not have policies in place. They try and hide. They don't put their contact information on their sites. And to the FTC, that just looks fraudulent right out of the gate. If you're trying to hide who you are, and you're trying to hide your identity and your contact information, what's that look like? It looks like you're a huckster. So, the credit card companies won't allow it. If you have credit card processing, they go through a vetting process to make sure you've got contact information on the site and you've got these particular policies in place. But then a lot of times people put the minimum and then they remove it as soon as they get their credit card processing in place. Or they rebuild their site and they don't put it back in. And all it takes is one person to make a complaint against you, and it can put you on their radar. And when you go on their radar and they start looking into you, if they see anything at all that makes you suspect, then you go into this thing, and they basically build a case against you. So it's really, really nasty. And that's just in the US, and this one in the EU is going to be even worse. The amount of compliance that you're going to have to go through to comply and be in regulation with their rules to basically to market or even communicate with anyone in the EU is going to be very stringent. One of the things that they've got is if you're accepting data, you can no longer be ambiguous about what you do with it. You can only hold people's data for 6 months, and you have to say exactly what you're going to do with it. So you have to list vendors, you have to have agreements, data protection agreements in place with all those vendors. It's all got to be public. It's pretty crazy. And where I get my source of information on this comes from, let me pull up the link to it. I use a company called the FTC Guardian, and I'll put it in the chat box here if you guys are interested in it. This is my link to it here. It's FTC Guardian. This Chip Cooper is the man behind this. He's an internet attorney, and I use all of their forms. Like they have a service, and they will supply you all of the forms, all the legal documentation to be compliant on your website. You notice if you go to the bottom of my website, I've got all these links down there for all these different policies. This is all supplied by these guys, and it keeps me on the up and up. It keeps me safe. They've been doing hangouts this month related to the GDPR, and they've actually been putting the documents in there that you're going to need for that. So they're actively working on compliancy for that for everybody. Some people tell me they're a little expensive. I think their lifetime thing is $9.99. But when you look at what that could cost you potentially if you ever have an issue, that's pretty much a bargain. And one thing you don't want to do, I made this mistake. I went out and I found somebody that had privacy policies on there, and they had all this stuff. And what I did, I grabbed them, edited them, put them up as my own, and within a couple months, I got this nice little packet from this law office in Florida that was suing me for stealing their contracts, and they wanted $5,000 as a fine, and then if I wanted to use the contracts, I could pay them another $2,500 and buy the rights to use their contracts. So that $7,500 versus, and a real pain in the ass versus, $1,000 to cover you for life and have these guys keep these all up to date for you. It's really cool the way they do it. They have a little widget. You generate the documents on their site. You put in your company information, and then you generate the documents that you need. And for every document, it gives you a widget. You put the widget on your site, and then the policy is actually generated on their server and delivered onto your site in an iframe through that widget. So they always keep them up to date. If there's changes, they change them, and they're published to your site from their server. So it's really a cool service. I've been using them for several years now, and I knew I was going to use them for good. That's why I bought the lifetime version. You can get it year at a time. It'll wind up costing you a little more. If you have it for more than 3 years, you're going to be paying a lot more for it that way. So, all right, guys, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up. If there's nothing else, last chance. If you guys have anything else, pop out here and fire away. Otherwise, we will be back in here next week. I do want to encourage you. There's a lot of new people that have just joined up here in the last couple of weeks to go in, actually log into the members area and start watching the videos, because I cover the stuff really detailed, step by step, in the exact process, the exact sequence that you need it. There's a workbook in there to work, put the stuff in as you're generating it. And it will really help you to create a successful marketing campaign. And like I said, this is the exact formula ad agencies use. So there's a reason why they get predictable results. It's because they follow these steps. They follow the sequence. They don't get it out of order. So let's see. Okay, nothing else here. All right, guys. Well, have a great week, and we'll talk to you next week.